Rian had been flying through deep space for 2 weeks. His cargo ship, Silver Wing, was small, old, and a little slow, but it was all he had. He was on his way to deliver food crates to a mining station when his navigation screen began. Flashing. Red. Unknown energy detected. The ship's computer said in a calm voice. Rian leaned forward, frowning. Outside the window, the stars blurred as a strange, shimmering web of light appeared in front of his ship. It stretched across the empty black space like a giant net, glowing faintly blue. Before he could react, his ship flew straight into it. The moment he touched the web, the ship shuddered violently. The engines roared, then went silent. The controls stopped responding. The Silver Wing was trapped. "What is this?" Rian muttered. Pressing buttons, nothing worked. He reached for the radio to call for help, but the signal was dead. Then he saw a dark shape moving toward him from the side. It wasn't a rock or another cargo ship. It was something much bigger. A long, sleek vessel emerged from the shadows, covered in silver armor plates that reflected distant starlight. Strange symbols glowed faintly along its side. Before Rian could even think, a voice spoke directly into his mind. Intruder detected. Prepare for boarding. Rian froze. He had heard of alien species in the outer systems, but he had never met one. Now, it seemed he was about to. A beam of light shot from the alien ship to his own, forming a tunnel of energy. The air in his cabin shimmered, and then a tall figure stepped through. She was nothing like any person Rian had seen before. The alien was clearly a woman, her features strong yet graceful. Her skin was pale bronze, smooth and unmarked. Her hair dark and tied back in a long braid. She wore armor made of black metal, with curved silver patterns. A long spear rested in her hand, its blade glowing faintly. Her eyes locked on him, sharp, alert, and strangely calm. "You have entered the trial zone of the Virine," she said. Her voice deep but clear. "I am Vara, warrior of the 5th. House." Brienne blinked, trying to process her words. "Trial zone. I didn't mean to look. My ship is just passing through. I didn't know this was you. Will speak only truth." Vara interrupted. "Your arrival here means you must face the trials. Only then will you be allowed to leave." Rian's heart raced. Trials? What kind of trials? Test of skill, courage, and heart. She replied simply, "If you fail, you will remain here. If you succeed, you earn your freedom." Rian stared at her, then glanced round at his dead ship. "Do I have a choice?" "No," she said, stepping closer. The spear's point lowered slightly, not in threat, but as a sign of control. "You are already chosen." He raised his hand slightly. "All right, fine. But I'm just a cargo pilot. I'm not some fighter." Her expression didn't change. The trials do not always test strength. They test the truth of who you are. Before Rian could reply, Vara tapped a small device on her wrist. A bright light surrounded them both. The air seemed to bend, and in an instant, the cargo ship's cabin vanished. They stood on solid ground beneath an alien sky. Above them hung two suns, one gold and one pale blue. Around them stretched a vast stone arena, its walls high and carved with the same symbols Rian had seen on Vara's ship. Hundreds of alien spectators sat in the stands tall, strong figures in armor, their faces unreadable. Rian turned slowly, his heart pounding. "This is a lot. This," Vara said, "is where your first trial begins." Rian swallowed. "And that is?" Vara pointed to a large gate on the far side of the arena. "Beyond that gate is a swift creature called the Kareth. You must track it and bring it back alive. You will be given no weapon, only your mind and your hands." Rian's jaw dropped. "No weapon, and I have to catch an alien animal?" Her eyes narrowed slightly, almost as if she was testing him already. "Do you wish to give up?" He hesitated, looking around at the watching crowd. Every eye was on him. Something inside him stirred, maybe pride, maybe stubbornness. "No, I'll try." Vara nodded once. "Good. You have until the twin suns meet at the horizon." The gate rumbled open, revealing a narrow passage leading into a dense forest beyond. Strange plants grew high and twisted, their leaves glimmering faintly under the twin suns. Somewhere inside, Rian heard a distant, sharp cry, high and fast, Vara stepped back, her voice low but carrying weight. The Kareth is faster than any runner, stronger than you expect. Do not chase blindly. Rian took a deep breath and walked toward the gate. As he passed through, the noise of the crowd faded, replaced by the rustle of alien leaves and the hum of unseen insects. The forest air was warm and heavy. He crouched, looking for signs of movement. His father had taught him. Basic tracking on old Earth hunting trips look for broken branches, bent grass, claw marks. He smiled faintly. Maybe that would help here. A small trail of disturbed leaves led off to the right. He followed slowly, careful not to make noise. The sound of quick footsteps echoed ahead, then stopped suddenly. Rian froze, scanning the shadows. There it was, quick, almost invisible, its skin shifting colors to match the trees. He caught only a glimpse of long, lean legs and sharp eyes before it vanished again. Rian knew he couldn't outrun it, so instead of chasing, he began looking for places it might pass again. He noticed a fallen log near a patch of sweet-smelling fruit on the ground. If the creature liked the fruit, it might return. He gathered some vines and used a branch to make a simple snare trap. His hands worked fast, heart beating hard as the sun slowly sank lower. Minutes passed. Then a flicker of movement. The Kareth stepped carefully toward the fruit, its colors shifting back to a soft brown. It lowered its head, sniffing. Rian held his breath. The creature stepped into the loop of the snare one more step and the vine tightened. It jerked in surprise, letting out a sharp cry, but Rian rushed forward, wrapping his arms around it. It struggled, but he held firm, speaking softly, easy. I'm not here to hurt you. Slowly, the Kareth stopped fighting. Its breathing slowed. Rian loosened the snare and guided it back toward the gate. When he stepped back into the arena, carrying the calm but watchful creature, the crowd erupted in deep, echoing cheers. Vara's eyes met his. For the first time, her expression softened just slightly. You have passed the first trial, she said. Perhaps you are not as simple as you seem. Rian gave a small grin, still catching his breath. Told you I'd try. Vara nodded once. Rest. Tomorrow, the second trial will test more than your skill. It will test your spirit. Rian didn't know what that meant yet, but he had the feeling things were only going to get harder from here. Rian woke up to the sound of soft drums echoing in the distance. He opened his eyes slowly, finding himself inside a round stone room lit by warm orange light. The ceiling was high, and banners with silver symbols hung from the walls. His bed was simple, a thick mat with woven blankets, but surprisingly comfortable. For a moment, he wondered if yesterday had been a dream. But then he remembered the strange web in space, the towering alien arena, and the first trial. He remembered Vara's steady gaze as she declared he had passed. He sat up, stretching his sore arms. Catching the Kareth hadn't been easy. His body still ached from the chase, and his hands had rope marks from the snare. The door slid open without a sound, and Vara stepped inside. She looked the same as before, all armored, her braid neat, her face unreadable. You rise late, she said. Rian frowned. Late? I thought I earned some rest. Her head tilted slightly. In the trials, there's no long rest. The second test awaits. Rian sighed, standing up. You don't waste time, do you? No, Vara replied simply. She turned and gestured for him to follow. They walked through narrow stone halls that opened into a vast balcony. From here, Rian could see the twin suns hanging in the alien sky. The gold sun was high, but the blue one was lower, casting cool shadows over the city below. Tall towers of black stone rose from the ground, their surfaces smooth and polished. Between them ran wide roads where armored aliens moved in groups. You have seen strength and skill tested, Vara said as they walked. Now you will face a different challenge. Today, we test your spirit. Rian glanced at her. And how exactly do you test someone's spirit? You will see, she answered. Not giving more details, they descended a long staircase and entered another arena. This one was smaller, with no crowd in the seats. Instead, only a few armored elders stood watching from a shaded platform. In the center of the arena lay a wide canyon of reddish sand, stretching far into the distance. At the far end, Ryun saw movement of a small figure lying on the sand as they approached. He saw it was a young alien, barely a teenager by human measure. The boy's armor was cracked, and one leg bent awkwardly. He looked frightened but alert. Vara's voice was calm but serious. "This is Terran, son of a warrior. He was injured beyond the canyon wall. Your task is to carry him back here to safety." Ryun nodded slowly. "That doesn't sound too bad." Vara's eyes narrowed slightly. "The sand is not empty. It hides beasts that hunt anything that moves. They are called Serix. You will have no weapon, only your hands and your courage." Ryun stared at the endless stretch of sand. "And you expect me to carry him, while avoiding these Serix?" "Yes," Vara said. "The elders will watch. They will see if you put another's safety above your own." Ryun looked at the boy, then back at the canyon. He exhaled slowly. "All right, I'll do it." Vara stepped back. "Begin." The moment Ryun stepped onto the sand, he felt the heat rising through his boots. It was soft, almost too soft, making every step slow. He moved carefully toward the boy, scanning the ground for movement. When he reached Terran, he knelt beside him. "Hey, I'm Ryun. I'm here to get you out." The boy's breathing was shaky. "Serix, they are close." Ryun looked around, but saw nothing. "Okay, listen. I'm going to carry you. Hold on tight." He lifted the boy onto his back. Terran was light, but the sand made walking difficult. Every step felt like his feet were sinking. Halfway across, a sound broke the still air, a deep rumbling under the sand. Ryun froze. "Terran, what was that?" "Serix," the boy whispered. The sand to his left bulged, and something long and dark moved just beneath the surface. Ryun's pulse spiked. He began walking faster, trying not to run. The Serix seemed to follow, the sand shifting in a slow wave beside them. Suddenly, the ground in front of him burst open. A massive creature lunged upward, its body like a scaled serpent, its head wide with rows of sharp, chisel-like teeth. Its eyes were small and black. Fixed on them, Ryun didn't think. He stepped sideways, moving toward a cluster of jagged rocks sticking out of the sand. The creature followed, but couldn't get between the narrow stone gaps. "Stay low," Ryun whispered to Terran as he squeezed through the rocks. On the other side, they had a brief moment of safety, but the Serix didn't give up. It circled in the sand, searching for an opening. Ryun scanned the ground, looking for firmer terrain. He spotted a patch of darker sand ahead. It looked compact, maybe too hard for the Serix to tunnel through. "Hold tight," Ryun said, breaking into a careful run. His legs burned, but he kept moving, focusing on the dark patch behind him. The sand roared again as the Serix attacked from another angle. They reached the hard ground just as the beast lunged a second time. Its head burst from the sand, but this time it couldn't move forward. The compact earth stopped it. It hissed, sinking back into the loose sand. Ryun didn't slow down. He crossed the remaining stretch as quickly as his legs allowed. Finally, he reached the safe stone floor of the arena. The elders nodded silently from their platform. Vara stepped forward, her eyes on Ryun. "You put the boy's life before your own," she said. "You did not abandon him, even when escape would have been easier." Ryun set Terran down gently. "That wasn't an option," he said, breathing heavily. "Where I'm from, you don't leave someone behind." Vara studied him for a moment. "You speak as if it is simple. But many fail this trial." Ryun shrugged. "Maybe they weren't taught the right way." One of the elders stepped forward. His armor was dark green, and his face bore deep lines of age. "This human, he is different. He does not fight as we do, yet he wins." Vara gave a slight nod. "Two trials passed. The third will decide his fate." Ryun frowned. "Third? What now?" Her eyes met his. "Tomorrow, you face me." The morning came with a sharp wind that swept through the stone corridors of the Virine arena. Ryun stood in the open courtyard, his eyes on the twin suns as they rose together over the alien city. His stomach was tight, not from hunger, but from the knowledge of what awaited him today. Yesterday, he had faced a strange creature and crossed dangerous sands to protect the boy. Today, he would face something different, someone different. Vara. She appeared at the far side of the courtyard, her armor shining under the suns. The black plates were polished, and silver lines curved over her chest and arms. Her long braid moved slightly in the wind. She carried no spear this time, only a long, curved sword strapped to her back. "You are awake early," she said as she approached. Rian gave a small smile. "Hard to sleep when you know you're going to fight someone who could probably break you in half." Var's expression didn't change, though her eyes studied him closely. The third trial is not only about strength. It is about the choice a warrior makes in the moment of victory. "That sounds worrying," Rian replied. She motioned toward the arena gates. "Follow me." The arena was full today. Hundreds of Viren filled the seats, their voices. A deep rumble of anticipation. Some beat their fists against their armor, others stood silent, watching. The air felt heavier than usual, as if the whole place was holding its breath. At the center of the arena floor, two circles had been drawn. In the sand, one smaller inside the other. Var led Rian to the inner circle. "This is the trial of blades," she said. "We fight until one yields or cannot continue. You will use this." She held out a wooden practice sword. It was heavier than it looked, smooth and balanced. Rian took it, feeling the weight in his hands. "You're giving me wood and keeping steel for yourself?" he asked. "I will also fight with wood," she said, drawing a matching weapon from her bag. "The sword is only a tool. The fight is in the mind." Rian nodded slowly. "All right, let's do this." The signal came from one of the elders. A single deep drumbeat rolled across the arena, and Var moved instantly. Her first strike was fast, so fast Rian barely raised his sword in time to block. The impact jolted through his arms. He stepped back, trying to find his balance. Var pressed forward, her movements smooth and controlled. Each strike was strong enough to sting, but not wild. She was testing him, measuring his reactions. Rian decided to try something different. Instead of meeting her head-on, he stepped sideways, letting her momentum carry her forward before swinging lightly toward her side. She turned her blade, deflecting his strike with ease. "You think to avoid strength with speed," she said between blows. "Good, but speed alone will not win." "I wasn't planning on winning with speed," Rian replied, ducking another strike. "I was planning on winning by not getting knocked out." The crowd gave a low murmur, almost like laughter. Minutes passed. Rian's arms ached from blocking, his feet kicking up small clouds of sand as he moved. Var's attacks never slowed, but they also never felt like she was trying to injure him, only to push him toward a mistake. Then it happened. She feinted left and came down hard from the right. Rian tried to block but felt the sword twist in his hands. It flew from his grip, landing a few feet away. The crowd roared. Var stepped forward, blade raised. Rian's mind raced. He could dive for his sword, but that would leave him open. Instead, he dropped to one knee and scooped up a handful of sand, throwing it toward her feet. She stepped back instinctively, giving him just enough time to grab his weapon again. Var's eyes narrowed, not in anger, but in interest. Clever. The fight went on. But now Rian could see her breathing was slightly heavier. She wasn't untouchable. He waited for the right moment, then made his move. She swung for his shoulder. He stepped inside the arc, letting the strike pass close, and brought his sword up to press against her chest lightly, not enough to hurt. The crowd fell silent. Var looked down at the blade, then back at him. "You have the strike." Rian slowly lowered the weapon. "Yeah, but I'm not going to use it." "You choose mercy?" she asked. "I choose not to hit someone who's been trying to teach me something," Rian said simply. For a moment, Var said nothing. Then she stepped back and raised her voice so the crowd could hear. "He has passed." The arena erupted with cheers, the sound echoing off the high walls. Elders stood, nodding in approval. Var sheathed her practice sword and walked closer. "You understand now why the third trial matters, because it's not just about winning." Rian guessed, "It's about what you do when you can." Her lips curved slightly, just the hint of a smile. "Exactly." One of the elders approached, his armor gleaming in the sun. "Human Rian, you have completed the 3 trials. By the law of the Viren, you have earned freedom and the right to be chosen." Rian blinked. "Chosen for what?" Var turned to face him fully, her voice clear and formal. I deem you worthy to be my husband." The words hit Rian like a sudden gust of wind. The noise of the crowd faded in his ears as he stared at her. Wait, what?" he managed to say. "It is our way," Vara explained. "Warriors who see greatness in another may claim them through the trials. You fought with mind, with courage, and with mercy. That is rare." Rian's mouth opened, then closed again. He had no idea what to say. The elders seemed satisfied. "The choice is yours, human," one said. "Accept and stay among us, or refuse and leave with honor." Rian glanced around at the crowd, then back at Vara. She was calm, her gaze steady, as if she was ready for either answer. "I think," Rian said slowly, "I need some time to think about that." Vara gave a single nod. "You shall have it." As the crowd began to leave the arena, Rian followed her toward the gates, his mind spinning. He had come here by accident. He had survived dangerous creatures, carried a stranger to safety, and fought a warrior unlike any he had ever met, and now she wanted him to stay. Part of him wondered what life among the Virine would be like. Another part reminded him that he had a ship, a job, and a home far away from here. But deep down, he knew one thing: nothing in his life was going to be simple after this. Rian sat on the edge of a stone bench in the quiet chamber Vara had led him to after the duel. The walls were curved and lined with tall torches that gave off a soft, steady light. The room was empty except for him, a jug of water, and his own thoughts. He kept replaying her words in his head. "I deem you worthy to be my husband." It had been so sudden, so unexpected. He had come here thinking about survival, not marriage. The door opened, and Vara stepped inside. She was no longer in her black armor, but in a lighter robe of deep blue cloth. Without the heavy plates, she seemed less imposing, but her presence was still strong. She carried the cups and set them on the table before him. "This is from our mountain springs," she said, pouring the clear water into each cup. "It is said to clear the mind." Rian took a sip. It was cool and tasted faintly sweet. "Thanks. I think my mind needs a lot of clearing right now." Vara sat across from him, folding her hands on the table. "You have questions." "That's putting it lightly," Rian said. "Let's start with the big one." "Why me?" Her eyes didn't waver. "Because you passed the trials in a way no other has done. The Kareth hunt tested your mind, you used wit over speed. The desert rescue tested your heart, you risked yourself for another. The duel tested your strength and mercy, you had the strike, but you chose restraint. These are the marks of a great partner, not just a great warrior." Rian leaned back, still trying to process where I come from. People usually ask before offering marriage in front of an entire stadium. A hint of amusement touched her lips. "Among the Virine, the trials are the asking." He rubbed the back of his neck. "And if I say no, you will be given a ship and allowed to leave with honor," Vara said calmly. "No shame will follow you." That should have made the decision easy. But something about her steadiness, her certainty, made it hard for him to answer quickly. Later that day, Vara offered to show him more of her city before he decided. They stepped out into the wide streets of the Virine capital. Towers of black stone rose high above them, their surfaces carved with stories of battles and great journeys. Bridges arched between some of the towers, and banners of silver and blue swayed in the warm wind. The streets were busy. Warriors in armor walked alongside merchants carrying baskets of goods. Rian noticed how the people glanced at him, curious but not hostile. Some even gave small nods of respect. "You are already known here," Var said as they walked. "Your trials were witnessed by many. The people talk of the human who fought without fear. I was afraid." Rian said honestly, "I just didn't want to fail." "That is courage," Var replied. They passed a wide courtyard where young warriors were training with wooden weapons. An elder barked instructions while the trainees moved in perfect formation. "That was me when I was young," Var said, nodding toward the group. "Every Virine is taught to fight from childhood, but we are also taught to choose with care. Strength without wisdom is dangerous. That is why our trials have 3 parts." Rian watched the young warriors for a moment. "So if I stayed, what would my life even look like here?" "You would live as an honored partner of a 5th house warrior," Var said. "You would be free to travel, to learn our ways, and to teach yours. Our people value bonds as much as battles. It is not a prison, it is a joining of paths. They continued walking until they reached a tall tower at the city's edge. From its balcony, Brienne could see far into the distance the pale blue sun dipping toward the horizon, the gold sun still high. Beyond the city walls stretched open plains of silver grass, rippling in the wind. This is where I come when I need to think, Var said quietly. Brienne leaned against the balcony rail. It's peaceful. Peace is rare for a warrior, she said. That is why we protect it so fiercely. She looked at him. When I saw you in the trials, I saw someone who could protect peace in a different way. Your way. Brienne met her gaze. There was no pressure in her eyes, only certainty. In her words, that was what unsettled him. She truly believed what she was saying. That night, Brienne was given a guest chamber high in one of the towers. It had a wide bed, woven rugs, and a small window that looked out over the glowing city. He sat by the window, thinking. The smart choice was to leave. His ship was still out there, waiting to be repaired. He had a job, a route, and a life far from here. But then he thought about the Virine streets, the way the people moved with quiet discipline. He thought about the way Var had fought controlled, never wasting a movement. And he thought about the words she had spoken at the balcony. Peace is rare for a warrior. Something inside him told him that if he left, part of him would always wonder what might have happened if he had stayed. The next morning, Var came to him again. Have you decided? Brienne stood for a long moment before answering. Not yet, but I think I'm closer to knowing. She nodded once. Then today, I will show you one last thing before you choose. They left the city on foot. Crossing the open plains, the silver grass brushed against Rion's hands as they walked. After nearly an hour, they reached a hill that overlooked a wide river. On the far side, a great stone monument rose into the sky, carved in the shape of two warriors standing back to back. This is the Monument of Bonds, Var said. It honors those who stood together in times of greatest danger, warriors and their chosen partners. Some were Virine, some were not. Brienne stepped closer. The names carved into the stone went back centuries. So your people have chosen outsiders before. Yes, Var said. It is rare, but it is not forbidden. When such a bond is made, it strengthens both sides. He looked at her. And you think we could be one of those? She didn't hesitate. Yes. They stood there for a while, the river's steady sound in the background. Brienne didn't give his answer yet, but he felt the weight of his choice more than ever. Leaving would mean safety and familiarity. Staying would mean stepping into a life he could never have imagined. When they returned to the city, the twin suns were low in the sky. The elders would expect his decision soon. That night, lying awake in the quiet tower room, Brienne realized that whatever he chose, his life had already changed. The next morning, the sun rose over the alien city, casting golden light over the tall crystal towers. Eric stood on a balcony of the guest quarters, staring at the strange beauty around him. The air was fresh, carrying a soft hum from the wind, flowing through the alien architecture. But his mind was restless. He knew that soon the final trial would come. Zyra arrived quietly, her armor polished and her movements graceful. She looked calm, but her eyes showed a faint concern. You slept well, she asked. Not much. Eric replied honestly. Too many thoughts. Zyra studied him for a moment. The path of the worthy is not only a test of strength, it will test your mind, your heart, and your will. If you fail, the council will not allow me to choose you. I understand, Eric said, meeting her gaze. Then I will not fail. They walked together through the wide halls of the citadel until they reached the council chamber. Inside, the alien leaders sat in a circle, their robes flowing like liquid silver. The elder at the center, Varek, raised his hand. Eric of Earth. Varek said, You have proven yourself in trials of skill and courage. Now you must walk the path of the worthy. It begins beyond the gate of echoes. You will go alone. Zyra's eyes flickered with worry, but she nodded in respect. Eric bowed slightly and left with the elder's guidance. The Gate of Echoes stood in the outskirts of the city, carved from black stone and glowing faintly with shifting symbols. A guard stepped aside as Eric approached. You will not take weapons. The guard said, the path is not fought with steel. Eric felt uneasy without his gear. But he stepped forward. The gate shimmered, and as soon as he crossed the threshold, the world changed. The city was gone. He now stood in a vast forest of towering silver trees, their leaves whispering in an unknown language. Strange mists curled along the ground. The first part of the path was silent too silent. Eric walked carefully, each step echoing in the strange stillness. Then he heard it, footsteps behind him. He turned, but no one was there. The mist thickened, and shadows moved at the edge of his vision. A voice spoke, soft but clear. Why do you walk this path, human? It came from everywhere at once. Eric's heart pounded. Because I must prove I am worthy. The voice laughed quietly. Worthy of what? Of whom? Eric hesitated, then spoke with honesty. Worthy of Zyra. She has shown me her peoples honor, her courage. I will stand beside her as an equal. The voice grew quiet. The mist parted, and the path ahead appeared. He continued forward until he reached a river. The water glowed faintly, and a narrow bridge of crystal crossed it. But as he stepped onto it, visions appeared in the water below, moments from his past. Moments of fear, moments of failure. You cannot escape yourself, the voice whispered. Do you accept your flaws? Eric stared at the visions, his stomach twisting. I do. I'm not perfect, but I will not let my past control my future. The river's glow brightened, and the bridge solidified under his feet. He crossed safely. Further along, he came to a wide clearing. In the center stood a figure tall, armored, and holding a spear. The figure's helmet hid its face, but its stance was threatening. Without a word, the figure attacked. Eric had no weapon, but he dodged and blocked with his arms. Every strike forced him back, but he refused to give up. Finally, instead of fighting to win, he stepped forward and grabbed the spear's shaft, holding it still. I will not fight you, Eric said. If this is about proving I can harm others, I refuse. I will protect, not destroy. The figure froze, then slowly removed its helmet. It was Zyra, an illusion of her. The image faded, and the path ahead lit with warm light. Eric followed the light until he emerged from the forest into open air. The gate of echoes stood before him again, and the city lay beyond. Zyra was there, waiting. Her expression changed from worry to pride when she saw him. You walked the path, she said softly, and you returned. Varek and the council approached. The path has spoken, Varek said. This human spirit is strong, his heart honest. Zyra, your choice is yours to make. Zyra stepped closer to Eric, her voice steady. I choose him. The words made the crowd watching from the plaza whisper in surprise. The bond between a human and an alien warrior was rare, almost unheard of. But for Eric, all that mattered was the quiet smile Zyra gave him. The trials were over, or so he thought. The alien warship floated in the darkness like a silent mountain among the stars. Inside it, the air carried a strange smell of metal and burning energy. Rian stood at the center of the main hall with Zyra, the alien warrior who had tested him, and later called him worthy. But now, their bond was not the most important thing. The danger ahead was. Zyra's eyes were calm but sharp. The council has given the order, she said, her voice firm. The enemy fleet will arrive in days. We must prepare. Rian looked at the large holographic map. Red marks were spreading from the edge of the star system, showing where the enemy ships were moving. They were fast. They were hungry for war. And if they crossed into the homeworld of Zyra's people, nothing would remain. I will help you, Rian said without hesitation. Zyra's second in command, a tall alien named Rallo, stepped forward. His expression was doubtful. Human, you are brave, but this is not your fight. You could leave now and be safe. Rian shook his head. If I leave, it will be your fight today and my fight tomorrow. That's how enemies grow. We stand together or we fall alone. For a brief moment, Rallo's hard face softened. Zyra gave a small nod of approval. Then you will fight with us, she said. The training began at once. Rian had learned much since his first challenge with Zyra, but this was different. He was now learning how to fight in zero gravity. how to pilot small attack crafts, and how to use the alien plasma blades that could cut through the strongest armor. His human mind worked differently from the alien soldiers. Where they followed strict formations and orders, Rian often saw unusual angles, quick tricks, and creative ways to attack. Zara noticed this one evening after a long training session. She pulled him aside. "You think differently," she said. "Sometimes too differently, but that can win battles. We need that." Rian smiled faintly. "Humans survive by being unpredictable. It's in our blood." 2 days passed like 2 hours. The enemy fleet entered the system, their ships shining cold silver in the black space. The alien warriors of Zara's crew moved with calm precision, taking their battle stations. Rian joined the strike wing, his heart steady but his mind alert. "Strike wing, ready." Zara's voice came through the comm. "Ready," Rian replied. Then the first shots were fired. Space battles were nothing like Rian had imagined. There was no sound, no roaring engines or clashing metal. Instead, the fight was silent except for the sharp alarms and voices in his headset. Blue energy beams cut across the darkness. Ships darted and spun like angry insects. Rian followed Zara's lead, weaving through enemy fire and striking at weak points. His smaller craft moved faster than the heavy enemy cruisers. He used quick hit-and-run moves, surprising them again and again. On his third attack run, Rian noticed something on the sensors. A large enemy ship was hiding behind an asteroid, waiting to strike Zara's command vessel. Without thinking, he broke formation and headed toward it. "Rian, return to position," Zara's voice called. "No time." He answered. The enemy ship was massive, almost like a small city. Rian knew he couldn't destroy it alone, but he could delay it. He fired all his weapons at its engines, forcing it to turn and face him. The enemy commander must have been furious. The giant ship chased Rian, ignoring its original plan to ambush Zara. Rian twisted and spun his craft between asteroids, using them as cover. Every second he kept the enemy busy was another second for Zara's fleet to gain the upper hand. But then his fuel warning light flashed. He was running out, back at the main battle. Zara realized what Rian was doing. "Strike wing, to Rian's position," she ordered. Moments later, her fighters arrived, surrounding the massive enemy vessel. Together, they attacked from all sides. Rian's craft was hit, systems failing, but he managed to pull away as the others finished the job. The enemy ship exploded in a silent flash of white light, its pieces scattering into the endless dark. Hours later, the enemy fleet began to retreat. The battle was won, but it had come at a cost. Many of Zara's warriors would never return. In the medical bay, Rian lay on a bed, his arm wrapped in a healing band. Zara stood beside him. "You fought like one of us," she said quietly. "No, you fought better than many of us." Rian gave a tired smile. "Just doing what had to be done." Zara leaned closer. "This war is not over, Rian. But today, you proved something to my people and to me. Humanity may be small among the stars, but it is not weak." Her words stayed with him. In that moment, Rian knew that no matter what came next, he had earned his place not just on her ship, but in her world. The stars above the alien capital shone brighter than Rian had ever seen. It was as if the whole galaxy was watching. The wide plaza was full of alien warriors, citizens, and elders, all gathered for the final ceremony. Banners of silver and blue waved gently in the warm night breeze. In the center, a crystal platform glowed faintly, marking the place where the final decision would be made. Rian stood at one end of the platform. On the other side stood Arena, the tall alien warrior who had once tested him with trials of courage and strength. Her armor gleamed under the moonlight, and her sharp eyes never left his. But tonight, there was no challenge in her gaze, only expectation. The alien High Elder stepped forward. His long robe flowed behind him, and his voice carried across the crowd. "Rian of Earth." The Elder said slowly, "You have passed the warrior trials. You have shown loyalty, courage, and a heart that does not break under fear. Our warrior Arena has deemed you worthy, but the choice remains with you." The words hung in the air. The crowd was silent. every eye fixed on Rian, Rian's mind raced. He thought of the days when he had first arrived on this planet, confused and alone. He thought of the desert trials, the icy climbs, the duels against warriors far stronger than him. He remembered Rena's harsh training and the moments when he thought he would fail. And he remembered the quiet talks by the campfire, the way her voice softened when she spoke of her people's history, and how she had defended him against her own kind. Arena took a step forward, her boots clicking against the crystal floor. "Rian," she said, her voice calm but strong, "I did not ask for your loyalty as a servant or as a fighter. I asked for it as an equal. If you stay, you will be my partner in honor, in battle, and in life." The words struck him deeply. He could see in her eyes that she was not just following tradition. She truly meant them. He looked around. The alien city was strange, yet it no longer felt foreign to him. The people in the crowd were no longer just observers. They were faces he had seen on the streets. Traders who had shared food with him. Children who had laughed when he tried to speak their language. The High Elder's voice rose again. "The choice is yours. Return to your homeworld, or remain here as one of us." Rian closed his eyes for a moment. The thought of Earth filled him with warmth, his family, the familiar skies, the voices he had grown up with. But another thought followed quickly. Earth was safe now, while this world still faced threats. The alien borders were under pressure from enemy fleets. The warriors would need leaders who could think differently, who could unite different worlds. When Rian opened his eyes, he felt strangely calm. He took a slow step forward toward Arena. "I will stay," he said firmly, "not because I owe you, but because this is where I can do the most good. This is where I belong." The crowd erupted into cheers, alien voices rising into the night air. Drums began to beat, slow and powerful. Some warriors raised their weapons high in salute. Arena smiled, a rare, true smile. She stepped closer and placed her hand on his shoulder. "Then together, we will protect our people," she said, "and together, we will face whatever comes." The High Elder nodded in approval. "So it is decided. Let the bond be recognized." Two young attendants came forward carrying a woven band made of silver threads and bright feathers. They tied it around Rian's arm and another round Arena's. It was a symbol of unity between warriors, a promise to fight side by side until the end. The celebration began. Food and music filled the plaza. Rian found himself surrounded by warriors clapping his back, elders speaking to him with respect, and children running around laughing. He had never felt such acceptance from people so different from him. Later, when the crowd thinned and the night grew quiet, Rian and Arena stood on a high balcony overlooking the city. "Do you ever wonder," Rian asked, "what would have happened if you had judged me unworthy that first day?" Arena tilted her head, her silver hair catching the moonlight. "I would have regretted it. I saw something in you even then, a stubbornness that would not break, even when you were afraid." He laughed softly, "And now I'm here, about to spend the rest of my life on a planet I didn't even know existed a year ago." She gave a small smile. "Life is like battle. The path changes quickly, but those who adapt survive." As they stood in silence, the stars seemed closer than ever. Somewhere beyond them, enemy fleets might be gathering, challenges might be waiting. But Rian no longer feared them. He was not alone. The alien warrior who had once tested him now stood beside him, not as a rival, not as a commander, but as an equal, and together they would face whatever the universe dared to send their way.